think that the internet can hear us now, so we can go ahead and get started. On the agenda today, all right, the first thing is Pavel talking about EIP 96. He has some unaddressed comments and issues about the block hash contract, so you can take it away, Pavel.
There is not a lot to talk about today, I think, in this case, but I left some comments around a month ago, or maybe even more than this, and so I have like different implementation, but it has not been finished yet, so I cannot talk about this time. But in the main pull requests, there are some comments and one Solidity Serpent related issue about signed integers. But in general, I think this is not finished case in terms what is exact the contract that we are going to inject in the dedicated account.
So Nick and Nick has been working on some tests with the version of the contract that I came up with 2 weeks ago, and it seems like what's the progress on that, Nick?
So we eliminated the bug that we found earlier, but I seem to have uncovered another one that only manifests when it's added a lot of hashes, which I haven't tracked down yet. Because reproducing it requires creating a lot of transactions.
Okay, so
okay. I have also there's like a pull request to the pull request that also have my test that I was working on some time ago. So I think what I can say now, it's like we should try to cooperate after the meeting next week, if possible, on this. Because I was busy with other stuff recently, and that's a bit not prepared for this meeting. But I hope we can, almost finish it until the next one. Yeah, sounds okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So yeah, sounds like we'll have more information the next meeting. Or actually, if we could just finish that up in the EIP itself, since that one's going into Metro, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. Cool. All right, I'll put that as a to-do. Was that any other comments on that? All right, sweet. We need to decide names for Metro Part 1 and 2, or we can just keep it as Metro 1 and 2. Doesn't really matter to me much. I think it'd be cool if we had names. Anybody have any ideas?
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say I like Vitalik's suggestion for Byzantium, and that therefore the second one should be called Constantinople.
Wait, what was that first suggestion?
Byzantium.
Oh, Byzantium. So wait, okay, maybe this is
just weird because I was thinking about exactly those two cities too.
Constantinople. Okay, I always say Byzantine. Is that just because I'm American or something?
So Byzantine is the demonym. It refers to things that come from the city of Byzantium.
Got it. Okay. Okay, you typed it. Thank you. I got it here now. I'm good with that. Any other comments?
So the Metropolis name is gone when we accept different names?
So there's two approaches. One of them is for the first fork to be called Metropolis and the second to be called something else. And for the other is that we call the two hard forks on two completely separate things. And the brand Metropolis can kind of abstractly refer to the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of it abstractly referring to the whole thing, or having like Metropolis, basically like Metro Byzantinian, and then Metro Constantinople, just whatever people want to use.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, what I'm going to do probably is just refer to it abstractly as the whole thing. But yeah, it doesn't truly matter except to like, I guess it would need to be more specific for things like technical or spec papers like the yellow paper. So, cool. All right. Well, any other ideas? Otherwise, this sounds good, and we'll probably float it in a few more channels before it's like official.
Okay.
Cool. Next one is updates to testing. Let me see. Yoichi, do you know of any updates there?
Okay, so recent EEP changes like the gas cost change for mod exp and the status code in the transaction receipts. These are already reflected in the Ethereum tests. However, in Ethereum tests, the Metropolis version is only one hard fork, not two yet. So we will work on splitting the changes into two.
Okay, great. Let's see. Anything else, or is there anything that is impeding any progress or anything that we could help you with, Yoichi, or for the testing team itself?
I think we can gradually move towards actually using the test suite to comparing clients, and probably Dimitri also expect feedbacks from client teams because they might find bugs in the client, but probably they will find bugs in the test suite as well. So we expect these kinds of feedbacks.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, just let us know in the core dev channel. And I know that I think we're going to get to this in a second, but the gas prices and opcodes, because I know Martin sent some of those in, and there was a few other people in the channel doing that, so we'll get to that soon. Okay, so details and implementations of EIPs. I think Geth and Parity generally have the same updates every week, that they're pretty much done. Geth or Parity, is there any other updates you feel like mentioning?
No, not really. Yeah, we're still waiting on tests mostly.
Okay, great. CPP Ethereum, anything worth mentioning?
Our updates just correspond to the updates to test that Yoichi just mentioned, because that's come from CPP implementation. So we have those two updates, the new ModX cost formula and put in status code into receipt. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, sounds good. And then, yeah, Yoichi, any issues or comments about yellow paper?
No, not much.
All right, cool. Vitalik, Pyathat?
Not much.
Cool. All right, we can move on to item 2, determining gas prices for new opcodes and precompiles. So that is mainly Martin. I'm trying to look at what he wrote.
Hello. Yeah.
Oh, hey, Martin. I didn't see you come in here. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I joined a little while ago. Just came home.
Awesome.
Yeah, so let me paste into the All Core Dev channel my latest measurements from a while back. I don't really know how we're going to go about to decide the gas costs. If we should compare them with the old one, or if we should try to decide on what kind of CPU architecture is the target one, and then try to reach 10 million gas per second. So basically what I'm trying to do is just provide some numbers and can take it collectively from there. I don't know.
Okay, so one thing that I wanted to bring up about this is if the gas prices are misconfigured, what is the risk to the network, or is that something that it wouldn't be super harmful before we could change it again at the Metropolis Part 2?
Well, realistically, it would just mean a network slowdown. So if it was we terribly miscalculate, then the network, like, there's a risk of DOS attacks like last year. If we slightly miscalculate, then like an attacker will be able to push the uncle rate up to like 25% instead of 15%, but otherwise it'll hum along fine.
Okay, that's a little, yeah, that's actually better than the risk I thought it would have.
And one thing that we can mention with these, I mean, the new things that we're adding now, they're all CPU intensive, so they're kind of easy to measure, as opposed to something which is more depends on the size of the state or whatever. So I think we can make pretty good detailed analysis on what the cost should be, but then the question is, how do we decide what the optimal is? And should we make any other changes while we're at it? And well, I guess we should not, but still.
Okay. The other thing.
Just one.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Some of these operations use code that is heavily tailored towards, or at least on some architectures, it's assembly intensive or something like that. Are machines like ARM and other architectures in scope here, and should we check the performance there too, or should we just assume that it's probably fine?
What's your thoughts on the matter?
I'm in.
Oh, I think Christian was going to say something.
We're all very polite here.
Yeah.
Vitalik, do you want to go ahead?
I'm inclined to say just checking it out just on standard computers should be enough, because I don't expect any. I don't see any a priori reason why these opcodes should be much worse on ARM than anything else that happens in Ethereum.
Do we have? I mean, can we easily test that on ARM?
I mean,
if we can easily test it, then perhaps we should just run it once and just check that it's not terribly off. And yeah.
Don't we have like Ethereum on embedded devices and so forth?
Mobile phones.
Yeah.
I think Go has a build for ARM architecture.
Yes.
C++ does not. We can try working on that, but it might take too much time to be worth it.
Are any of these libraries optimized have assembly optimization for x86?
I guess they even have SMT optimizations.
So you could assume that they're not optimized for ARM. So if you disable all the optimizations and do a measurement, that would be the upper bound for ARM.
Yeah, fair enough.
So in terms of C++, we don't have any assembly enabled in the underlying big number library that we are using. But the reason for it was mostly it was easier to integrate this way so far. So the library called MPIR has then like different paths for different architectures, even for different revisions of Intel CPUs and so on. But we haven't enabled that because it was harder to build on Windows, I think. But it speeds up the performance by 7 times, more or less. So the benchmarks are there from my side are for the code that has not been optimized for particular 64 bits x86 architecture.
So the other thing I wanted to mention, so Tim, he, like a week and a half ago, was talking about putting parity benchmarks up, and I know he had worked on them before. Did he ever put those up, or, I guess follow-up question, should there be a centralized place for all this, or is this something that can just stay in the core dev channel and we keep up with?
Yeah, I think Arcady published some benchmarks for parity the other day in the core dev channel.
Yeah, the code for the benchmarks is there. Someone just needs to run them and compare to other implementations on the same machine.
Okay, I missed that link. I might try to find it. Okay, cool. So we should get some people on that, like, because I feel like this has been going on for a while, so we probably just need a group of people. And I know Tim volunteered, so I might try to get in contact with him. And then, yeah, so you were asking, Martin, should this be on one, I guess, should this be targeting one type of architecture, you were saying?
I'm kind of saying that we're starting to get the numbers. We have some numbers to go on and some code to go on. The next step is how do we, well, to actually decide on the values to use. That's kind of my take on it.
Okay. How has that worked in the past, for instance, Homestead? Like, is it as simple as just deciding in a chat, or was there, like, anything formalized online, or... Because I wasn't here back when Homestead, or I wasn't, on the core devs thing when Homestead was happening.
Yeah, me neither.
Vitalik, do you remember how it worked? Or Christian?
Did we have such things in Homestead?
Yeah, actually, you may have not had any changes, but I guess this would have been... Yeah, actually, you wouldn't have had that many. So maybe this would be... Yeah, that'd be way too long ago, like Frontier, just the launch. Yeah, so, I'm gonna think more on this, and maybe, Martin, if we could collaborate on getting this figured out, but I think we can just figure out who in the chat has talked about running these, and then if we need to get more numbers, that's fine, and then if not, start throwing out recommendations for people to comment on. Yeah, generally I find that if you just throw out like a list of like, here's what it can be, and then people will just give their opinion that way.
Yeah, so for example, in the GIST that I put in the all core dev now, there is a calculation for what the gas price should be if we go for 10 million gas per second on my particular machine. And I think all the new operations should be increased by half, or they're at like 60%, most of them, 60 to 90. They should be increased a bit. And it looks like all the old ones are heavily overpriced right now, particularly Ripe MD. Yeah, so I'd probably suggest that we raise the gas limits from the current suggestions in the EAPs.
Okay, I took note of that. And one other thing, so we might have talked about this before, but in order to test this on different computers, I guess, would doing this on Azure or AWS across different, packages that have different like CPU, GPU specs, would that be beneficial?
Not GPU things, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I don't know enough about how these tests work, but I was just thinking something that would optimize running them. Alright, so yeah, next steps for that, I'm going to, let me put that as my to-do. I'll talk to Martin more about it, and we'll figure out a way to find some more people to run these on their machines, get some more data if we need, and if not, just start suggesting things for people to comment on.
Yeah, sounds good. Is there anyone? I mean, maybe we should form some small group who can look into this.
Yeah, Arcady, is there anyone from Parity's side who's ran this or would be good to help with this, at least from running it on Parity?
Yeah, I can help with that.
Good.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and then we can make some suggestions for the next core dev call.
Great. Okay, so the primaries are going to be Martin and Arcady, and I'll get in there too, just to kind of learn more about it. Great. And then, yeah, by the next all-core dev call, we should wrap that up. Let's see. Any other comments on that?
Think of anything.
Okay, great. Next one, review time estimate for testing and release. It's going to be August in a few days, and I believe we originally said something like August to September for testing and release would be ideal. I know that last time, let me go to the last agenda, there was a couple of like very important to-dos, and I wanted to go over each one of those and see where we were at. So let me put those down. Okay, so the first one, Nick and Vitalik, you were working on the 96, 98, and addressing concerns with gas scheduling in 198. What's the progress on that?
Okay, so for 96, we are continuing, well, Nick is working on the tests, and we'll continue to go back and forth on that, and we'll report back to the group when we have something that looks like it's passing everything. For 98, 98 is the intermediate state root removal, right? So I remember that the thing that we had wanted to do was basically replace the 32, like starting from the Metropolis block, replace the 32 bytes with the intermediate state root with a single byte that is a 1 if the transaction passed and a 0 if it failed. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Then, like, I don't think there's any gas-related stuff that needs to be figured out there. Then for 198, so that's modular exponentiation. The main thing that still needed to be figured out was the Karatsuba multiplication complexity formula. And I had suggested one a few days ago, and it seemed that, and it's basically a piecewise quadratic that tries to approximate a like n to the power of 1.6, and people seemed relatively fine with it.
Yeah, that already hit the test cases.
Yes. Okay. Then. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else.
Yeah, there was a couple other to-dos. Let me go through the rest of them. I think only 2 more, because we already talked about gas benchmarks and opcode gas data. So the EIP for minor reward reduction was going to be combined potentially with 669, and I actually haven't checked on that. Did anyone happen to put in the minor reward reduction? Let me actually check out that EIP. Okay, so
so speaking of these kinds of tests, I forget, did we have block tests for any of the block-specific EIPs? So that includes 98, right? Because 98 cannot have transaction tests.
So 98, when we implemented 98, we had to change, I think, all blockchain tests because all of them include some transaction receipts.
Okay, so it looks like, okay, yeah, Vitalik commented on the 669. And a lot of people commented on it, so we'll need to read through that, because there's some back and forth about it. Nick also was in on that conversation. This is a long thread. Okay, we'll look at this a little bit more, but this isn't something that has to be done like today. It can be figured out by the next core dev meeting. But yeah, I think that we came to consensus last core dev meeting that we are doing the issuance reduction, unless something major comes up. And I do see a few people from the community who are against it, so we might look at it at least one more time. Let's see. Oh, one more thing. Alex Miller said, has there been any discussion about implementing an issuance decay curve in a series of eras?
My instinct is no, because we'll probably be switching over to hybrid proof of stake before the second era hits anyway.
Okay. Cool. Alright. And then the last thing, put Ice Age changes in 669. That's already been defined, and I didn't see anybody who had a problem with that. That would be... Actually, that's actually in 669. It's called 649, but the URL's for 669. So, yeah, we'll figure that out. Okay.
The number is 649 because it was originally opened as an issue, but the pull request number is 669.
Okay, got it. Cool. Alright, I think that was the last to-do that I saw from the last time. Now...
Hold on. Could I just ask a question about the new one that Nick proposed? We're talking about receipts. I thought you guys said a few minutes ago that we replaced it with the 1 or 0.
That's specifically the intermediate state root field of the receipt.
Yes.
But I'm looking at the EAP right now, and it says either the return data and any return revert data.
So which EAP are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm looking at the one linked from accepted.
What number?
658.
Okay, because I updated the one I submitted to.
I'm looking at the one
just return status.
Yeah, I'm not... Wait, let me look here.
58, did you say?
No,
Yeah.
658.
658.
That's what I just said.
Oh, sorry, I thought you just said 58.
658.
Okay, you made an update about 2 weeks ago? Yeah, so are you on the latest update, Martin? Because I'm seeing where block number is greater than Metro fork block number, the intermediate state root is replaced by a status code with a byte indicating 0 for failure and 1 for success.
Right, I was looking at a bit above that in the motivation.
Oh, yeah, it says both, actually.
Yeah.
Since everyone refers to the CIP by the number 98, I went ahead and clarified on EAP 98 as well which one we're going with.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so are we going to modify 98 to incorporate my one? Rather
Yes,
than...
I've already done that.
Okay, all right. Well, shall I just close this pull request then?
Yeah, well, no, yeah, keep the poll. Well, we'll figure it out later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but keep the main page for the EAPs updated, so we can always go there and check which ones are planned for adoption.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, on that page, what we should do is remove 658. We shouldn't close the pull request, but we can note that 98 now has the things that were in 658. Is that... I think I followed that. Okay. Sounds good.
As a kind of more broader and general point of procedure, I've been noticing that there's that because we have this mechanism where an EIP is an issue first and then becomes a pull request, it has been causing some annoyances because basically the community gets used to debating an EIP while it's still in the issue form. And then when it hits to the implementation phase, it becomes confusing because there's suddenly 3 different numbers for the same thing.
Personally, I'm a fan of starting straight out in issues. In pull requests. The only reason I'd open an issue is if I had a vague suggestion that wasn't mature enough to write an EIP about.
I'd have to think about that more, but that sounds okay so far. Casey, did you? I know it was either Casey or Greg months ago had some opposition to that. Casey or Nick, do you remember what that was? Maybe.
I don't remember the concrete details, but I vaguely remember some opposition. Yes.
Casey,
I
do you
think
remember? Oh, go ahead.
the opposition would have just been the annoyance that Vitalik mentioned.
Okay. Yeah, and I know, you know what? I remember it now, and I think Greg or someone predicted something like this would happen. So we might move to update that so that everything's a pull request. That might be easier to rip that band-aid off now. Does anyone else have any procedural suggestions as far as this goes? Because the main one is just the numbers being messed up, but I didn't know if there was anything else.
Is there a way to actually block comments on a given issue number? Because the annoying thing is you can close it, but everyone can comment on it still. So
not as far as I know.
Yeah, this is for, you're saying PRs or issues or both?
Yeah, both doesn't matter. But any from administration point of view, ability to mute the commenting or disable commenting in particular cases, to enforce actually moving from one issue to another pull request. But I'm just asking if this is a technical option.
I think admins should have this ability.
I'm not sure they do.
Yeah, we looked at it before and we didn't, but I mean this was 6 months ago, maybe even.
Oh, hang on. No, on the right-hand sidebar, there is a lock conversation option.
Ah, cool. All right. We could do it. Yep, that sounds like a good idea for us to do. And yeah,
we have to figure out how actually to use it, but at least there is an option.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go through a training of some kind. And actually, on that note, eventually we need to clean up all of the EIP editors. There's like a bunch of editors right now. Let me actually go to all of them. But there's, let's see. Oh, actually. Oh, wait, Nick, are you no longer an editor?
I should be an editor.
Oh, wait, I'm on the wrong repository. Never mind.
That's relief.
Yeah. No, so right now we have Martin Beasy, Vitalik, Jeff, Gavin, Fabian, me, Casey, Nick, and Greg. And for the most part, Vitalik, Martin, Jeff, and Gav, and Fabian to an extent haven't really been as active as far as editing. So we probably should get some new people in there. Arcadia, I was going to ask, just so that we have kind of cross-client coverage on this stuff, if you could go back to Parity and ask if anyone wants to be an EIP editor, we can add them to the EIP editor channel, unless you have someone in mind right now.
Not right now, but we'll pick someone. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the most exciting job ever, I can assure you.
Yeah, it's pretty... No, it's not. Don't listen to Nick. But, you know, whoever you don't like at Parity, send them our way. We'll give them something that they'll hate. Okay, so, anyways, and yeah, anybody else who has a nomination, or anything, just let us know. Who's in here right now? Vitalik, do you want to be an editor in here, or... Are you cool
I mean... I'm fine either way.
Yeah, and it's only as representative of someone who goes in and actually has the authority to close out stuff. So We might just keep who we have. We'll kind of talk it over later.
Yeah.
Okay. So oh, Nick, could you mute?
Oh, sorry.
All right, great. But yeah, no, we'll talk about it later to see if, like, because we might even change editor responsibilities to make it a little bit more lax, so we don't have to, like, have a certain amount of work done per editor or something like that. And it could just be kind of more chill. The next item... Oh, is there any other comments?
Yeah, I do have one. Is my mic on?
Yep, it is.
Yeah, so I'm looking at 98, which is an issue. And that's the one linked on from the README as well. There's no actual pull request for that?
Oh, I thought there was. Let me look.
But there's one, well, it was referenced in initial abstraction changes for Metropolis 86. But I don't think it's part of it anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything.
Oh, actually, you commented on it in June. Does this have an EIP?
Oh,
does
yeah.
EIP have an associated PR?
Okay, yeah, that was actually directed at Vitalik, and that was June 14th. Do you know if this has a PR Vitalik?
Which one?
EIP 98.
I'm not sure if it does.
Oh, okay, wait. This
no, actually, wait, no, sorry. Yeah, the 98, no, 98 corresponds to 658.
Okay, let me put
Well, no, well, yeah, it does, I guess. So should we then, instead of closing 658, amend it to incorporate all of 98? To make it, to amend it to be 98?
Well, we should amend 658 to be the thing that we agreed on.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, well then would 658 be called 98? That it can be called either one, but is there a preference?
I mean, it obsoletes 98, but since that never took force, I guess it makes more sense to just number it 98 and say that this is now 98 now.
Yeah, Vitalik, since you were on 98, what would you have a preference?
I guess 98, because that's what we've been calling it more.
Yeah, so we will call PR 658 EIP 98 and incorporate EIP 98 changes into PR 658. So someone will just have to go through and make sure everything from 98 issue is in PR 658.
I'll do that since it's my pull request.
Okay, thanks, Nick. I'm going to put that comment in right now. And then what we'll do is we will link 98 to 658 on the README and fix that. Casey, I think you did that last time. Would you be able to just jump in and do that after this?
Oh, sure.
Thanks so much.
The reward for a job well done is more work.
Okay, so I put the comment in there. And is there any other comments on EIPs?
You have on the same.
Oh, yep, sure.
So I'm not entirely familiar. I'm looking at the 658 pull request. I'm not entirely familiar with the with this intermediate receipt. But my question is, how related is that to the transaction receipt RPC call?
Not at all.
So it wouldn't make any sense to include the status for revert. Wouldn't make any difference.
Include it in
this change. Because you still only have two values, success or failure. You don't accommodate revert.
Well, so failure implies, well, revert is one of the reasons you can have a failure.
Yeah.
So, sorry, what are you suggesting?
Whether it would make sense or any difference to have three codes.
What would the third code be?
So if you look at the revert PR, back in the day there was a proposal that at some point call could be adjusted or a new call could be made, which returns three values, success, failure, or revert.
I see.
And I wonder if bringing that to the this receipt would make sense.
What do other people think? They don't.
As a summary, could you do that in like a 1 or 2 sentence summary? I think I got lost in the middle of that.
So, should I go?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is, would it make sense to have 3 values in that field? One meaning success, another one meaning the revert opcode was used, and the third one meaning it was just a generic failure.
So what would a generic failure be?
Well, anything that's not a revert opcode. But like I think the problem is that complicates the abstraction, because now we have basically 3 types of execution termination instead of 2.
Yes, and for backwards compatibility reasons, we'd have to see all illegal jumps, for example. It's basically the same kind of error as a throw, right?
Well, recent versions of Solidity output reverts anyway, so only older versions will emit invalid jumps.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking that any application who wants to react to these operations, they still need to consider those 2 failure modes as one and the same. Because
no, I'm sort of assuming that if it detects a revert, then that's because it's expecting that contract supports it, and it's going to go look, it's going to go trace it to determine what the revert data was, like the exception data. Whereas a failure that isn't due to a revert, there's no point in doing that because you know there won't be any.
Yeah.
But I'm still not sure. I'm not convinced either way. On the one hand, more data doesn't really hurt.
0 success, right?
No, 0 is failure, 1 is success, to line up with the return status code of a call rather than with the conventional Unix return codes. Think of it as a bool rather than a status code.
Yeah.
Does this receipt has the gas limit and the used gas in it?
Yes. Okay, well, the used gas.
But it doesn't have the starting gas on it.
No, but you can get that from the original transaction.
Well, I guess you could use that to determine that revert was used.
Not any. Oh, you mean, well, yes. So that should be the only failure that uses less than all the gas, true.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a good understanding of this receipt anyway. Where I'm coming from is I would like to see in the long term the ability to see that revert was used in a call within the VM, and it would be really nice to have same level of visibility in the RPC. If any of these have nothing to do with this, then I have no comment on it.
I would suggest that this is easy enough to add at the client level. We can add an RPC call that that gives you return data. Although, no, we discussed that. It brings problems with flight clients and syncing. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe those who understand it would like to think a bit about this and come back later on.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Alex, could you post at the bottom of the relevant EIPs, just kind of posing this question, and then yeah, we can definitely bring it back later on.
I just like to raise again. I mean, if we're gonna have several failure modes, I would really like success to be 0, and then have an infinite number of failure modes.
Yes, if it's going to be compatible with call, then that's good. But if it's not, then we may as well go with a conventional multi-return thing. Currently, it's a bool, so I think 1 makes sense for success. But if it becomes an enum, then yes, 0 makes sense.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay, great. So at this point, we were at the review time estimate for testing and release. So as far as that goes, does anyone have any estimates or comments or wishes for when testing would start. And it may be Yoichi who might have the best perspective on when we could start testing.
Actually, I don't see a reason why not now. Of course, there are certain things. So if you have already implemented 2 hard forks instead of 1, you have to start these hard forks at the same block because the test case is only assuming 1 hard fork, and there are certain undetermined gas costs, so you have to set these undetermined gas costs manually. Maybe you have to look at the CPP implementation to figure out the gas cost formula tentatively used, but why not now? I mean, okay, I do remember some time ago, Vitalik sent us some bug reports on the tests when he tried Ethereum on the test suite about Metropolis changes, so why not now?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm inclined to agree.
Cool. So we're saying that basically so would it be good to say that by next core dev meeting, anything that is outstanding here should be cleared up so that we can then set a date for testing? We can kind of come up with a date today or a block number or whatever, but by next time we can kind of confirm it based on
hold on. Hold on. Shouldn't we be get to the point where we have all major clients 100% passing tests before we start setting dates?
Oh, I kind of thought that so far. Wait, which clients aren't? Is it just PyEthap or is it multiple?
Well, I mean, I thought not all of the tests in C++ are even up yet, right? Like we don't even have tests
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can still kind of try to come up with an idea of it though, but I agree we should have that going. Today, let's at least come up with an idea of what we would be aiming for though. So if we get the rest of the C++ test up,
so I think it would be a good idea to first set our goals for 2 and 4 weeks from now. So one example for a goal would be 2 weeks from now we should have literally all tests implemented in C++, including block tests for the opcodes that are block related. So things like EMP 96 and 98. And for, extremely optimistically 2 weeks, but realistically 4 weeks, have all tests passing.
Okay. As far as resources go for that, how many resources do we have right now? I think it's still mainly Dimitri, Yoichi, Martin, and a few community volunteers. Is there anyone else who's doing that right now?
Actually, I think it's mainly Yoichi and Dimitri who are doing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right, Mark. Yeah. So if that case, Yoichi, do you need more resources, or is there something that the other teams can provide?
Well,
and I mean that in order to make a 2-week thing.
So if the other teams have resources, maybe they can try to resolve existing errors visible in Hive framework. And I guess that's the best way to resolve differences, resolve uncertainties. So, and obviously, client implementers themselves are far more better than I am in fixing these or determining the cause of these problems. So that's the best way to help, I guess. So yes, solving existing errors visibly in Hive.
Okay, so basically, if you're a client and you have an error, please go to the Gitter channel that I'm pasting in here. It also has a Skype bridge, so if you'd rather be in Skype. But I mean, it'd be ideal to have one person from each client team who is basically the person who can, you know, talk about and work with the testing team on errors, or just fix them themselves and then report back. So if we could get people to do that, I think we can make the 2-week goal if we do that. But otherwise, we're kind of relying on just like two to 4 people if some of the community volunteers even step up to do this in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but actually I already have some regular contact people with respect to testing problems with Parity. I always talk to Arkady with Parity, and with GoSLM I usually contact with Felix and so on. So
oh, cool.
It's kind of starting.
All right, great.
However, in many clients, I still see several hundreds or even 1,000 errors on Hive runs. So it's far from clear.
Okay. Vitalik, you mentioned major clients. What, in your opinion, is a major client? Because I know that there was some recent work with JavaScript and other stuff. What do you think?
So I would say top 3 are Geth parity and C++. And if we can be more, the more expansive thing to do would be to add Python and add JavaScript.
Okay, but as far as requirements, like if we hit the 2 weeks and Python and JavaScript aren't done, that's not a showstopper for you, in your opinion?
I'd say no. Like, I mean, it is a sign that would make me worried enough that I'd like try to really dig into the Ethereum and see why it wasn't working. But
all right, cool. Any other comments on this? Casey, actually, what's the full update on the JavaScript VM? I think last time we all talked, it was up to, I think it was able to sync to like Spurious Dragon. Is that right?
No, last time it was up to Tangerine Whistle, aka the EAP 150. But as of yesterday, it's passing all the Spurious Dragon tests. So work on the Metropolis EIPs can start on the JavaScript client.
Great. Based on the resources working on that right now, but are you thinking that 2 weeks it would be able to be done, or are you thinking more like it shouldn't be considered as a core client at this point for the actual launch?
No, 2 weeks. Not 2 weeks is not enough time to implement all of Metropolis on in Ethereum JS VM.
Okay, no problem. Cool. All right, so that is where we are there. Any other comments on any of this? Basically, the verdict is we'll try to get all of the clients passing the test in 2 weeks, preferably, so that we can then reassess and try to set a hard date block number for the next 2 months, because we'll need some time for testing. Cool. All right, next item, make a decision on the hard fork meta EIPs. That was Alex. And basically, he's just talking about combining. So there's like a few EIPs that are meta EIPs that just include information like what block number it started on, and other like what EIPs were included in different hard forks like Homestead, you know, Spurious Dragon, and all that stuff. So Alex, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So there is the EAP 233, which just explains the process. It would be nice to actually merge it. It's just an informal, well, it's a type meta, or is it informal? Anyway, that just describes that for every hard fork, there should be such a meta EIP created, which lists the code names of the fork, the block numbers they were activated, and all the EAPs which were included. And now on top of that, we have 3 hard forks, hard fork meta EAPs written up: 706, 708, 709. And Casey kept them really updated. I think they should be done at this stage, and it would be nice to merge them because they are unlikely to change since they are for past hard forks. I think 609 is the one for Metropolis, which is not final yet, so there's no need to merge it. It would be nice to get just a generic idea whether people like this, and if anyone is against it. If not, then I would hope to merge it.
Yep, I'm totally for it. The only thing would be, I've been talking to some people about the naming convention for them. So do you have a preference on the naming convention? Like, only because if we put these in there, it might be scattered in a chart if it's just called like 233 and 240 whatever, or 607, 608. Like, so maybe we could just like name it Meta Homestead or Meta blah 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 in like a different chart.
Oh, they do have a title.
Oh, okay. I might have not seen that.
So like 607 is Hard Fork Meta Spurious Dragon.
I see. Oh, okay. I didn't look at the latest one. I looked at the other one. Sweet. Okay.
And I think the last issue, or the last pull request is 676 by Casey, which adds them to a list on the README.
Got it. Okay. And 223 is just a formal process for hard forks. So that is... Okay, so that just defines what steps and processes go into doing a hard fork, right?
Yeah, I think what it mostly defines that there should be such an EIP created.
Great.
It could be updated. I guess that's the biggest chunk which needs to be reviewed by people. So 233 is where most of the comments are needed. The rest of them should be ready to merge.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Let me go to here. I'm going to paste this into the chat and into the all core devs for people to comment on. But yeah, otherwise, yep, that's good. Any objections? Alright, great. We'll start merging those in after a little bit of review. I think I've already reviewed one or two of them. EIP 6, okay, so the next item, item 3, is EIP 663. That also is Alex, and that is a limited swap and dupe instructions.
Yeah, so the motivation is right now, swap and dupe are limited to the top 16 items, and there's the only way to reach any items below is to pop items first. And this EIP introduces 2 new instructions, one for swap, one for dupe, which take an immediate value and can reach up to the full depth of 1024 items. Now the reason for this is if how function calls are usually structured in an EVM code is first the return position would be pushed, and then the arguments, and when the function finishes, very likely the return values would be put on the stack, and there's no easy way to reach, if there are more than 16 items there, it's no easy way to reach the return value, well, the return position, which was like the first parameter. And this, well, okay, so kind of this is a problem, a compiler issue, which can be workarounded in many cases. But I wonder if there are in any optimizations in Geth or Parity, which take the 16 stack limit into account and put away the rest of the stack in a less accessible place, or there's any reason not to be able to access the entire stack. If there is no such reason, I think it would be useful to make this possible.
So I have a concern that this effectively encourages misuse of the stack. Like, it seems to me that it would be far more sensible to store local variables in memory rather than in stack the whole time, because that creates this dependency on the particular depth of the stack. I'm also concerned that adding a new opcode that has an immediate argument complicates Pycycler bytecode, whereas currently only one opcode has an immediate argument, which is the push opcodes.
Regarding the immediate, it would be entirely the same as push push to works.
Yes, but currently parsing bytecode is almost embarrassingly simple, and the more opcodes we add with immediate arguments, the more difficult that becomes. And in fact, this will break any existing code that passes bytecode because it was not it actually requires new passes.
So another concern, it will also break existing contracts because currently anything is legal between. So any sequence of bytes is legal in code, even if it's not a legal opcode. And if an opcode is changed to be a multi-byte opcode, which it was previously not, then jump disk analysis will shift. And so if you jump over something which you only use as data and not as code, and it contains something that will be a multi-byte opcode later, then the code following this non-code will not work anymore.
But it applies to push as well.
Sure, but push was known before.
Yeah, so things like
just saying it might break existing contracts.
Yeah, like the purity checker from Vitalik.
But does that mean we never will introduce any opcode which has an immediate value?
Personally, I very much like the way the EVM currently only has one immediate thing, and I argued against Greg's introduction of new immediates for the SIMD instructions as well. I think that if we're going to change to EWASM or something, that would be a good time to completely restructure things. But in the meantime, we should try and keep the simplicity of existing opcode structure.
Well, regarding this part, I do have like the alternative version where a push is required before the opcode, which wouldn't introduce any immediate, but would reduce the usefulness a tiny bit.
So what about the other half of my comment about using memory instead of stack? Because imagine if the EVM had only had like swap 1 and dupe 1 from the very start. Writing language which expected local variables on the stack would never have been an option. How would you have architected it then, and why not do it like that now?
Sorry, I was cutting out. I mean, there's the trade-off between number of instructions and code size. You could, even today, write code which only uses a dup 1, nothing else.
Yes, but I don't think that the overhead of storing locals in memory instead of stack is overly high, and it's something the optimizer can easily pull out onto the stack if it determines that it's possible and cheaper. And it seems like a more sensible general purpose way to do it. It's also the way that traditional compilers and processors work.
But just a single comment to that, the gas cost can be higher to not encourage. I mean, that was in there as well. Well, actually, what's the IP, the way it is written up, it had the push required upfront instead of the immediate. And because of that, it was obviously more expensive than the current dupe instructions. But yeah, I do understand your concerns.
Okay, so is there any other discussion on this, or Alex, do you have a proposal for either bringing this back to the EIP or having more commentary?
Yeah, I think I will take it offline. Just wanted to get an initial reaction to it.
Okay, sounds good. And yeah, feel free to put it on the agenda for next week too. Let's see.
Thanks.
And then the last one is EIP 215. This is a bitwise shifting instruction on the EVM to replace 145 that Alex brought up. So go ahead.
Yeah, the 145 was the original version of it. There were like 3 versions, 2 issues, and this is the latest PR. So the only one which needs to be taken care of is 215, which is the pull request. And this is ongoing for like a year and a half at this point. The idea is to introduce bitwise shifting operations, shift left, shift right, and arithmetic right shift. It's only for 256-bit values, and that's it. The benefit it provides, even any standard contract usually uses call data load to get the first slot, and the top 32 bits of that contain the function selector. And in every case, in order to retrieve the function selector, the contract has to shift right, which is accomplished by division currently. And there are a lot of other use cases, mostly in hashing functions, where shifting is very useful. And things like any byte building methods. What this introduces is cheaper ways to shift left. It's a 10-fold decrease compared to, so like currently implementing it with a division and multiplication and exponentiation, it usually costs around 35 gas. And if we take the shift instructions natively at 3 gas, that's a 10-fold reduction in gas cost regarding that. So any comments on? I think nobody was really objecting against it anytime in the past. A few of us were trying to champion it, but nothing really happened. I think the spec is fairly complete.
Yeah, I see Greg's commented on it, and let's see. And then yeah, Nick's good on it from April. So this would be okay, cool in the EVM. Yeah, this seems like everyone's pretty much agreeing on it. I'd say it's good to go. Is there anyone in here who kind of objects to it? The people who've been following it and commenting on it seem okay.
I think it's a big admission that we haven't had it from the start. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. The question is it slated for Metropolis, and do we have time to implement it?
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
say
earliest for part 2.
Okay.
I wouldn't propose it for this one.
Well, then that means we now have more than one thing for part 2. So hooray!
All right, yeah. So that's actually one of the reasons we have part 2 is to kind of look at putting in a few more things like this, ones that aren't as potentially not as expansive as 98 or 86 or whichever one we're putting in there. But yeah.
I think it could even fit this one, but it would just put an unnecessary stress on people implementing it.
I agree. I think it's better to have it for part 2, which we don't know when that's happening, but I'm going to guess Q1 2018, but I mean, maybe sooner. We'll see. Let's see. What is next? Oh, I think that might be the last official item. Were there any other comments on that?
So even if you're not getting it into this part of Metropolis, I would be happy to take any other comments and flesh it out even sooner.
Does it need? I mean, do you feel like it needs a lot of fleshing out? Because if not, then maybe we can just mark it as accepted and merge it.
I think it's only 2 or 3 of us which have ever fully reviewed it, and that's Pavel and Greg. Probably it would need a few more eyes.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, you, feel free to reach out on the core dev channel for people to look at it. But I mean, looking at this, the people who review EVM related changes, everybody except for maybe Martin Beasy has looked at this. So cool. Yeah, we'll get some more feedback. Is there any other non-agenda topics or comments or anything anyone wants to bring up? Okay, great. I think we're good then. Everybody have a good weekend, and I've written some notes that I'll put in the agenda comment and hopefully start doling out to people. After every core dev meeting, I get busy and then like get lax on sending out reminders to people, but I'm gonna try to not do that this time. All right, cool. Great meeting everybody, and talk to you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.